Back in January, I did a deep dive on a tool called Dockhand. It was an in-depth 38-minute video covering as much as I could in that time. And at the time, I said it looked promising, but I was still running Portainer as my main container manager. At the time, I just wasn't ready to make the switch yet. And while I was very comfortable with Portainer, it was slowly becoming more than I really needed to manage my containers. So I started looking for something that would help me manage my containers without a ton of features I didn't need. When I'm thinking about adding something new to my setup, I want it to just work. I want minimal configuration, I don't want to fight documentation, but I don't want my handheld either. So as a recent side quest, I built a fully functional news aggregator. It scans sources, scores stories, ranks them by video potential, and pushes highlights directly to my Discord. And it only took me 6 prompts to build, and it actually could have been fewer if I'd been more thoughtful about my prompting. And I built it using today's video sponsor, Abacus AI. Now, before you think this is just another AI wrapper, let me show you what's actually going on under the hood, because this is different. Head over to chatllm.abacus.ai and you've got every major model in one place. Claude, GPT, Gemini, Grok, DeepSeek, all accessible without juggling 5 different subscriptions. There's even a Route LLM feature that automatically picks the best model for whatever you're asking. So you're always getting the right tool for the right job without having to think about it. And then there's Deep Agent, which is what I used. This thing can build complete websites, mobile apps, AI pipelines, and yes, full applications like the news aggregator you're looking at right now. 6 prompts from zero to a live, filterable, Discord-connected app. And all of this is just $10 a month. Not per model, but for all of it. If you're already paying for ChatGPT Plus or Claude Pro separately, this pays for itself in one day. Be sure to check out chatllm.abacus.ai. The link's in the video description and in the pinned comment below. Recently, I switched from Portainer to Dockhand, and I want to talk about why, because the reason isn't Dockhand is better than Portainer. The reason is something I didn't see until I added it up. The real cost of running Portainer was never Portainer itself, at least not in my setup. It was everything that I had bolted on around Portainer, and once I counted that honestly, the decision kind of made itself. So let's talk about what I mean here. Here's how most of us end up managing a home lab. If you've been self-hosting for a while, you likely started with Portainer because it was the obvious choice. It's been around forever, and it just works. But then you realize you want to know when a container goes down, so you add Uptime Kuma. And of course, you always want to know when a container image has updates, so you add Watchtower or something similar to get those notifications. And most everybody wants resource monitoring of some type, so you add something for that as well. And suddenly, you're managing several different containers just to get basic visibility into the thing that you're actually trying to run. That was 100% me, and maybe that's you as well. And here's the thing I think a lot of people in the same situation never stop to add up. Watchtower may not just be one container. I had Watchtower running on every single LXC and VM in my home lab, so I could get update notifications for every container on every host. So the actual number of extra containers I was running just for management overhead was way higher than it looked on paper. It wasn't 3 or 4 instances. Once you count every host, it was much, much closer to 20. I also had Portainer running on each instance as well, so I could manage things a bit more easily. And look, I know I could have used the Portainer agent to handle things differently, as I'm doing now with Dockhand, but again, Portainer just isn't doing it for me at this point. And Dockhand replaced all of that with one container and the agents running on each LXC and VM. And it talks directly to my existing Gotify instance for notifications, so I didn't even have to change my notification setup to make the switch. So what does that actually look like day to day? The thing that surprised me the most wasn't a feature that I'd seen in a demo. It was something that I found out about my own home lab once I had a single pane of glass to look at it through. Dockhand gives you a unified dashboard showing real resource usage across your hosts, CPU, RAM, networking, and more, all in one place. And when I sat down and looked at what my containers were actually consuming versus what I had allocated to them, I found a couple of them that I'd given way more RAM than they ever needed. Basically, I had provisioned them however long ago, guessed a little high in what I thought they might need, and never looked back. And this gave me an opportunity to actually go in and allocate what made more sense for those containers. With everything in one simple view, I realized how much I had over-provisioned some of my containers. So I went in and tightened up some of those allocations. And that's the thing about a unified dashboard that doesn't show up in a features list. It's not just convenient, it actually surfaces decisions that you may have made badly and forgot about. I would have never caught that just SSHing into hosts one at a time because I wasn't even looking for it. When there's an update available for a container, I get a Gotify notification. And when a container goes down, I get a Gotify notification. And when it comes back, I also get a Gotify notification. Now, I used to use Uptime Kuma for some of those notifications, but Dockhand handles them just as well. So Uptime Kuma is gone also. And all of this is managed from one dashboard across every LXC and VM. I'm not checking multiple places. I'm not SSHing into individual hosts to see what's running. It's all just in one dashboard. Now, I know there may be a couple of questions that are already forming in your head, and I want to address those head on. First, what about Komodo? Look, Komodo is a great tool, but it's solving a different problem. Komodo is a build and deployment system. It's designed for managing software across many servers with build pipelines, CI/CD style procedures, and Docker Swarm support. If that describes your setup, then Komodo is genuinely worth a serious look. But if you're a home labber managing a few containers on a few hosts, and you just want clean visibility and sane update management, then that's the lane that Dockhand was built for. Look, they're not even really competing for the same use case. Picking between them isn't picking a winner, it's picking which problem you actually want to solve. Second, and I think this is the bigger one, is Dockhand mature enough to trust? It launched in late 2025, so let's be clear, it is still relatively new. It's not 8 years of Portainer with every edge case ironed out. So I want to answer this carefully because I think trust is the wrong single word for it. So here's how I'd like to frame it. A container manager is just a control plane. It's not where your data lives. Your data lives in volumes, on your file system, and in databases. Dockhand sits on top of all of that and tells it what to do. So if a container manager has a bad day, the blast radius is smaller than you might think. Your containers and your data are still there. And the worst case is you might be managing them by hand for an afternoon while you get things sorted out. This is a very different risk profile than, say, a storage tool or a backup tool having a bad day, where the thing that breaks is the data itself. So the question for me wasn't, do I trust it completely? It was, if this goes wrong, how bad is the worst case, and can I recover from it? I've been running Dockhand on my actual production home lab for a few weeks now, and luckily nothing has gone wrong. I also take a backup every morning, so if something does go wrong, I can always restore to that morning's backup. For my home lab, that's a risk level that I'm actually comfortable with, and your situation may be different, and that's a totally fair call for you to make about your home lab. Okay, so let's say you want to make the switch. I want to talk briefly about something that I encountered, because there's one thing you need to know before you start, and if you skip it, you could actually lose your data. There's a good chance that most of your containers are going to migrate without any drama at all. If you're using mapped volumes especially, Dockhand will just pick that up and everything works, and no changes need to be made. Where you'll want to slow down and take things a bit more carefully is anywhere that you're using Docker volumes or Docker networks. If you import a Docker compose file that uses those as is, Dockhand will just create a new volume or network instead of attaching it to the one you already have. And if that happens in a database container, you've effectively got a fresh install with none of your data in it. And I'll tell you, that's genuinely a bad day. So look, the fix itself isn't complicated. You just have to know to look for it. So I want to take a quick second here to show you a compose that has both a Docker volume and a mapped volume in it, so we can kind of look at both of those and understand what to look for and how to fix it. So this is a Docker compose for a WordPress instance that I've imported into Dockhand. And if we take a look here, we can see that part of this has a mapped volume here in home docker/WordPress for the var www HTML folder mapped inside. With this, that's not going to cause you any issues when you import this via Dockhand. This will just go off without a hitch. You'll be good to go. However, down here at the bottom, I've got a Docker volume that's being that handles my database for that WordPress instance. And here we can see that I've got it declared here as root_db. And at the bottom where I've declared the volume itself, I've got volumes root_db. Now, if you were to just deploy this as it stands, there's a very good chance that Dockhand would just create a new volume with a different username in front of that root_db. And that's going to give you a fresh install that you definitely don't want, especially if you've got a lot of data in there, like my instance that's been running for 8 years. In order to fix this, what you need to do is actually come down here to where it says this next lines that says external equals true and the name of root_db. By adding these two lines to your Docker compose for any type of Docker volume that you've got, of course, adjust that for the actual volume name of your volume. Just make sure that you add that external equals true with the name and the actual database name, as you can see here. For Docker networks, you would do the same thing, declare it external, and then name that external network just as we did there with the volume. And that's the whole catch. You'll want to audit your containers before you start to know which ones use Docker managed volumes versus mapped volumes, and handle those deliberately. And the rest of the migration will be genuinely uneventful. Just don't skip the audit. Again, I did a deep dive on Dockhand back in January if you want to check that out before you commit to changing anything. And I'll be sure to have a link in the video description to that video. But for me, the decision came down to something pretty simple in the end. One container replaced several others, depending on how you want to count it. And my home lab is easier to look at, and I'm likely not going back. If this kind of content is useful to you, go ahead and hit the subscribe button, because this is exactly the stuff that I cover here on the channel. And I definitely want to hear from you on this one. Have you used Dockhand? Are you still using Portainer or something else entirely, like Komodo or Dockage or plain compose files? What are you using to manage your Docker containers, and why? I'd love to know that in the comment section down below. Or if you want to get deeper into it, definitely come join us in Discord. There's a link down below for that as well. And if you want to support the channel and grab something while you're at it, the merch shop is linked down there as well. But with that said, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. I want to thank you guys for spending a few minutes of your day with me here today, and I'll talk to you in the next video.